Hi, everyone. Welcome to Black in Focus. I'm Karen Toulon here in New York, and we have a great show today. We are talking to Terrence Blanchard. He is a six-time Grammy-winning American trumpeter, um, tons of albums, tons of music scores for film and other productions. But most importantly, he has an opera that's debuting at the Met just in a couple of days. Terrence, good to see you.
Hey, thank you, Karen. Thanks for having me. Good to see you too.
This is the first opera by a Black composer in the Met's 136-year history.
Yeah,
What took them so long?
that's a good question. I mean, you would have to ask them. I just know that it's an overwhelming experience for me because I know I'm not the only one that was qualified throughout that 136-year history. There have been a lot of great composers who have come before me, William Grant still being one of them. And I'm just standing on some very broad shoulders, man. And I'm blessed to be where I am, but I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that I don't let all of those folks down.
Fire is a very complex story of identity and childhood trauma.
Mhm.
Um, is part of the stumbling block what the traditional sense of what opera is, what opera should sound like, what the story should
The
be?
biggest hurdle is being confident in our skin. That's the main thing because there has been this type of approach of saying that opera should be a certain thing. And I'm not necessarily a believer in that. I think opera has always tried to tell stories. And when you look at the great composers throughout history, especially, the romantic composers that most of us listen to, those tales were taken from the community from which they were created, you know. And I think it's time for, composers, and there are a lot of composers who are doing that. Let me just say that. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of composers who are writing contemporary works. It's mostly the concert halls that have to put on the productions. When we were in New Orleans with my first opera, Champion, which is about a fighter, there was an elderly gentleman, African American man who was in his mid 70s, who came up to me and he said, "If this is opera, I'll definitely come." And I know the reason for that is because he saw himself on the stage, and that's what's important to me about being in this world is bringing our culture and our history to this forum.
How much of it at a place like the Met is it also the donors? I think the Met is like a $300 million a year operation. I think it's the
Mhm,
largest cultural institution in America.
mhm.
Are the donors where you are? Are the donors happy to support new works, different works?
I mean, I think so. I mean, the few donors that I've met, obviously, the ones that I've met are very supportive of what it is that we're doing. But my whole point about this is I don't want to be a token. I want to be the turnkey. I want this
Mhm.
to open the doors for a lot of other people, not just African Americans, but women and all people of different races and backgrounds, because there are a lot of stories that can be told, in this forum. And it's a great organization, man. I'm telling you, we just finished
Mm.
a rehearsal with the orchestra, and they were amazing. Just simply amazing, and the voices were amazing as well.
So you grew up immersed in music. I mean, yeah, you are from New Orleans, but your father, I believe, was a manager with an insurance company, but he also was a part-time opera singer. Your
Yeah.
childhood friends were Wynton and Branford. You
Mhm.
picked up the trumpet and piano when you were still in single digits, but most importantly, perhaps, you went to performing arts high school. There's a report out from Save the Music that says that music programs in underserved communities are often the first to kind of get cut. How
Mhm.
important is those early stages? You said getting comfortable in your skin, having kids have music education, however they can get it.
Well, I think it's extremely important. It's not just music, but it's arts in general. I think a lot of kids that grow up in our society sometimes can't find a way to communicate. They can't find a way to fit in. And one of the things that art will allow them to do is to find their voice, you know, find their path. The school was called NOCA, New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts. When I went to NOCA, they were talking about budget cuts and everything, and NOCA was always the first thing that they wanted to cut. But it was also very interesting to me that when the Chinese ambassador came to New Orleans, NOCA was the first place they sent him to go see what was happening in New Orleans public schools. So you can't have it both ways. I think It's really important when you look at the success of Wendell Pierce, Wynton Marsalis, Branford Marsalis. I mean, the list is endless. Harry Connick. Those are people that I just went to school with at this Arts High School in my generation, and there's so many others. Anthony Mackie. You know, those have all been very productive people who have come from Arts High School, which is a public school in New Orleans, and have gone on to do a lot of great things, and not only in the world of art, but also in the community.
You also score for film. You did Spike Lee's 4-hour Hurricane Katrina doc. You have New York NYC epicenters coming up, I guess, this fall as well. Is part of what's fueling perhaps more need for music just the growth of all the streaming services, and you have Ava and Oprah and Shonda and Tyler just pumping out more and more content. They all need creative people.
Mhm.
How important do you think that is in kind of building up that pipeline?
Well, it's extremely important because, like you said, there's so many streaming services. But the thing is, we can't just put out anything in any type of content and think that it's worthy of being on those services. We still have to aspire to a high level of excellence, which has been the history in our community. I'm proud of people like Chris Bowers. It inspires me, and I look at him and some other people, John Baptiste, who, won the Oscar this year. I look at all of these young folks and I go, all of this is worth it, because we're expanding the palette. We're broadening out and giving a lot of other people a shot at entering into this world of creativity.
You just released Absinthe,
Yes.
a tribute to a saxophonist Wayne Shorter.
Mhm.
What's the difference between creating an album and giving birth to an opera? Is it two different parts of your brain? How does that work?
Well, I wouldn't say it's two different parts of your brain, but the album is a collaborative effort with the guys in the band and myself. I write some things, they'll write some things,
Mhm.
and then we come together and we kind of arrange everything, and we kind of start with a concept and go from there. The opera is, it's like making a movie for me, but the thing is, I'm the one that starts with the movies. The movies are done and then they bring them to me and I score them.
Yeah.
With an opera, it starts and ends with me. So it's a lot of work. It took me 2 years to write, this opera. The end result is so rewarding, to hear these beautiful voices and to see the lighting and the staging and the orchestra. There's so many moving parts, but then when it comes together in a live setting, it's just a miraculous thing to experience. And I've been telling people, I say you have to stop using the word opera sometimes because people get jaded by that term. Just like when sometimes you say jazz, people think of a certain thing, you know. But I've been telling people this is the highest form of musical theater that I've ever experienced.
So we've seen with other with plays and other types of performances that when there's a Black creative involved, a lot
Mhm.
of people come. People from the community come, other
Mhm.
people come, but the point is that a lot of people come who may not traditionally go to this highest form of musical theater, who may not usually go to the opera. For people who may not go often, or people who are specifically like me, obstructed views, going to see you on opening night, which is such a treat. Um, what attitude should we bring when we're sitting there and taking in the performance?
I think the main thing is to empty your mind. You know, don't come to it with any preconceived notions because I think those are the things that set you up for failure. You know, I think if you keep an open mind and just allow yourself to be absorbed in it, because it is a different experience. It's not like going to a concert where you have amplified voices all over the place. These are natural voices singing in the theater, and then start to assess what you've experienced later. You know, I did that when I was first commissioned by Opera Theater St. Louis years ago. I was really inspired to be a part of that community.
You tore yourself away from rehearsals to talk with us today. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on Absence and congratulations on this opera. And that's going to do it for this edition for Black in Focus. I'm Karen Toulon. Next week, we'll be joined by the co-president and chief marketing and design officer for Savage by Fenty right after their show. So we'll see you then. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.